We are going to be talking about the Soundbites article, What a Thousand Teacher Voices Reveal About Classrooms in the Age of AI. I'm Kristen Powers. I am the Vice President of Customer Experience at Socrate, and I am joined by Maria Anderson, who is our CEO, co-founder, and a current middle school teacher in Utah. This article in particular, I was very excited to talk about. I know it was one of our first sound bites. And I think what's really neat about this one is because it's looking at real classroom data. And this is what this whole series is about, is like how things have changed in the classroom and how much the load of teachers has changed in the classroom. So sort of to preface what we did for this article, you took 1,000 pieces of data of teacher warnings and then human categorized, which I love that we have to note that this is human categorized, not AI categorized, what those warnings were about. And we'll get to some of the details, but like, let's just talk about the overall, like, were there any surprises in that experience of categorizing them before we reveal some of the like big picture of what the data says?
Oh, well, let's just say you could have some funny small categories on things like nose picking and hygiene issues. Not
Funny.
enough to bubble up to a large category, but yeah, there's definitely some repetition and some of these that are amusing.
I love that. It would be interesting someday along the lines to sort of segment like if there's a middle school population of specifics versus high school and elementary, if we have like,
Yeah.
don't eat that
One day
marker.
we'll have a big enough population of users that that will be the
Yeah,
case,
yeah.
but not today, not yet.
So the biggest bucket of warnings was a bucket that we human categorize as talking or not listening. So warning students about talking over you or talking out of turn and not listening. That was about 30% of the total warnings. What does that feel like as a teacher to see that data?
I think it's really validating, actually. The classroom has definitely changed since COVID, although I don't think it's been entirely because of COVID. I think there are some correlatory factors here, like
Mhm.
device use increased after COVID, like one-on-one device use increased. And students spend so much time on devices now that I think they lack the ability to self-entertain, to self-soothe, to pay attention in a way they did before. They're used to like, I'm bored, where's my device, right? And so when they don't have their devices, they are much more likely to disrupt. That's kind of a phrase we use as teachers that it sure seems that students don't know how to student anymore.
Hmm.
Like that the basic skills required to be in a school are lacking in many students now.
That's
So
interesting.
the ability to sit quietly in a classroom.
Mhm.
And the really interesting part about this is that some parents will say, like, you're trying to turn students into automatons. It's like, no, we're trying to teach in a room with 27 other human beings in it. We can't actually do that if 27 human beings have their own agenda, they're talking, they're not paying attention, right? Like you don't get to be in a common space of learning unless you can abide by some rules that are common to this micro society you're in, right?
Mhm.
Like I try to give students plenty of time to also talk in a classroom.
Yeah.
I need my time too
Right.
to give directions, to get them on task, to provide, what we're going to do next. And they just can't stop talking. The second one student talks, they like popcorn across the room and everybody talks. Like they don't have a sense of like that's that interrupting your
Inappropriate.
teacher is
Yeah.
inappropriate. They
Hmm.
see interrupting your teacher as an invitation to also interrupt, right? So students just don't know how to student.
Hmm.
And I'm sure some of that comes from years missed in school when they were younger.
Yeah.
Some of it comes from this inability to hold attention, but we're definitely feeling it in classrooms. And to see that 30% was from that was very validating as like okay, well, it's not just me.
That's right. That's right. We're all feeling this.
We're all feeling this one. Yeah. So that was, and in some of the other things we saw that were common warnings as well. It's
Mhm.
students not knowing how to student.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you made an interesting point just a moment ago about how you do provide an opportunity, like a container for like here's talk time and what that looks like when there's productive talk time and when that might look like them working together on something or like table activities and then there's the off-topic time. How do you sort of like create those containers for students? What does that look like in the classroom to differentiate between productive and non-productive since they don't know the difference?
Huh, well, that's a good question. Um, it definitely varies by age what you do
Hmm.
in a classroom with students, right? So I teach middle schoolers and it's often really hard to get them to settle down after they've had hallway time.
Hmm.
They kind of, none of them have enough recess time anymore, right? And kind of play time. And even middle schoolers, I think they need more play
I don't
time.
get enough playtime.
Yeah, well, you're not in school. Sorry. Um, And so sometimes we start class by doing like 5 minutes of board work where
Hmm.
they sit down for a second, I tell them what they're going to do at the boards, and then they go to the board with their partner, their table partners, and they work on something at the boards. They draw something, they write something, they can like have a little chit chat. It's so funny. There's so much gossip they've got to catch up on in middle school. I mean, they were just in the hallways, all sorts of things happened, and now they've got to catch up from the hallway gossip. And so just giving them a space to have a little like they do a little work, they do a little thinking, they whisper to each other, get a little bit of it out of the way, and then, you can bring them back to their seats and see what they knew. Like it's a good opportunity for me to see what they still have in their head from yesterday, right?
Hmm.
Um, and where they might have gaps. I'm surprised you don't remember that one from yesterday. Let's go over that again, right?
Hmm.
It's a chance to throw back to like learning intentions from a previous day. So sometimes I'll just grab the learning objectives from a previous day and say, okay, why don't you see if you can answer, there's learning objectives and then like here's what you should be able to do today. And so, or from this lesson. And so I'll say like, number one and number three, let's do those on the board. See if you can tell me the answers to these two, right? So it's just a fast and quick way to get some energy out and get a little talking out of their systems.
Yeah.
But then again, it's still hard to bring them back.
Yeah.
Every time they talk, it's a little hard to bring them back. I find with middle schoolers, the very best way to do it. Every teacher has their own, phrases, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me
Oh, I know
here.
the clap, 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 clap.
Yeah, yeah. But the one I find works best with middle schoolers is if you can hear me, point to who's talking, because middle schoolers love to tattle on each other.
Oh, that's great. That is
And it's
devious
almost
and brilliant.
instantly silent as everybody goes like this and we settle on the last person who's talking, right?
Ah, that's great. That's great. Leveraging the tattletale energy. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Is there one of the things you're saying where it's like if you give them a certain amount that it's like it's hard to pull them back in. Um, it almost feels like there's this like danger zone of like once they're off, it's hard to reel them back. And I imagine like certain times of the day or certain days of the week or like days before holidays, that is just like really challenging to have people be able to
Yeah.
know how to pull them back in.
Yeah. I think again, like different teachers have different strategies for these things, right? And it ebbs and flows in a classroom, right? Like you have weeks where you feel like everything ran smoothly, and then you have weeks where you're like, oh, I guess we're going to revisit classroom procedures today
Hmm.
and do a little work on settling down and not talking over the teacher again. It's especially hard in secondary because every teacher has different procedures and um, you don't really have enough time with them to emphasize the same procedure over and over all day, right? And so they forget and you forget between classes like what you're currently working on, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Some
Um,
future version of Socrate will likely nudge me and say, based on interactions in class today, I think tomorrow is a good day to revisit this procedure. Right? And that'll be
Mhm.
fantastic.
That will be, I look forward to that day. One of the things that you sort of teased in this original sound bites was thinking about the other categories and how we broke out the rest of the warning data. So I'm going to see if I can share that image. Oh, that is not the right thing to click. Because I thought, especially in the context of what classrooms look like in the age of AI and how we are navigating that, this data was really interesting. I'm gonna see if I can get this in the right spot. Okay, take me a second. Oh, technology. There we go. So the second biggest one was the properly seated set, right? That data.
That
And then
goes back to students not knowing how to student. Like the
mhm,
number of times I have to say, I didn't give you permission to scoot your chair across the room to sit next to your friend, or like kids who are like moving their chairs back and forth. Like we probably break at least, there's probably at least one broken chair in my classroom every semester from students improperly treating chairs, right? They stand up and move across the room and to go talk to somebody just on their own, like
mhm.
without any like I'm teaching. Why are you now over here talking
Yeah,
to Kristen? Like it doesn't make any sense. And if you ask them like why are you standing up? A lot of them will like look around and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't know." And they sit back down again, right? But yeah, being properly seated is a problem now. And you can see the extent of it. It's again, it's kind of the students not knowing how to student. It's this
yeah,
inability to like have focus. And I think one of the real shames here is that students probably do have too much seated time in school. Again, it goes back to the like, we've pulled arts out of schools, we've pulled music programs out of schools, we've pulled recess out of schools, we've pulled so many things out of schools to focus on reading, writing, math, science. And the problem is that the students can't actually focus on those things if they don't also get some of this energy out.
right.
They're young. It's not reasonable to expect them to sit all day, right? But even when you give them opportunities to be out of their seat and moving, they still have a hard time sitting, right? Not all of them, of course. Like some of them are great.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but those students who are great get super frustrated by the students who are constantly disrupting class, right? Which is
Yeah.
the next category.
Right. Disrupting class.
Yeah.
Segue.
So, it's just like, again, students not knowing how to student. It's a lot of that.
Where do you think they would learn how to student? Or where do those skills come from? Where did they used to come from?
I think, so here's an interesting one. I think that some of the skill comes from activities they would have done with their parents
Mm,
normally before smartphones and iPads.
mhm.
So, for example, if I am, I went out to dinner with a relative and a couple of their kids the other day, and the kids are super squirrely at a table unless they have a device, right? Now, when I grew up, which was, as the kids say, back in the 1900s,
Yep.
um, they never miss an opportunity to make me feel ancient because they're middle schoolers. And when I grew up, you had two choices at a dinner table out in public. You could sit and listen to the conversation, or you could read a book, or you could color. Like sometimes there was a coloring page, right? That was it. And so you had to sit quietly and do one of those things. And because of this expectation that they'll always be entertained by a device, I don't think they've actually learned the practical skill of sitting and listening. You see it all over. Once you start to pay attention to it, you'll see it all over. Like when we go to soccer game, like with professional soccer team in Utah, we go to the soccer games. We see kids come in with their parents. We think, oh, this is great. The parents are taking the kids to the soccer game. And then the parents reach into the backpack. They pull out a device for each kid. They pull out headphones for each kid. They hook them up, and the kids sit and use their device during a soccer game. Like, so like I think practically it's both the COVID years where they didn't spend time in classrooms, but also just that they don't actually get experience sitting quietly and listening
Right. There's no
anymore.
practice of that.
So there's no parent enforcement of this for
Mhm.
some of these kids. Again, some parents, it's clear which kids have this experience with their parents where they are expected to sit quietly. Another place where that was expected to happen was in a church environment, right?
Mhm.
You were
Mhm.
expected to sit quietly in church and listen.
Mhm.
And, many people don't attend a church anymore, right? So there's not that community-based reinforcement, of
Yeah.
like, if you were squirming around in your seat, the adults around you would glare at you and, like your parents would, shh, you got to be quiet, like, and so the only people reinforcing this behavior now for some kids are teachers.
That is so
And it
true.
it needs to
Yeah.
be reinforced by the whole community,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And it's just not happening.
I was thinking in my own life, like as a child, like we did Girl Scouts, and that was an opportunity of like you sit in a group, you listen, there are certain times that you speak and times you don't speak. And so yeah, there was like early practice. Um, but I'm even thinking about now in like our media and media consumption and how it's almost glorified to like change topics every 30 seconds or like if you try to watch the news, there's the ticker at the bottom, there's something on the screen, there's an interview happening over here, and like we are inundated with like multiple distractions at any time. And so this idea of even sitting still, it seems like a bigger challenge. And to think
It
about
is.
these students we've talked about in our other episodes, this like ADHD component, the why won't students sit still? Why does it take 20 minutes to write your name? Like these things seem to be very much overlapping challenges in the classrooms that you're seeing right now.
Yeah. It definitely is a challenge. And I think it's particularly hard because you do have this subgroup of students who have been taught these skills by the adults around them,
Hmm.
and then the ones who really haven't. And
Yeah.
it's super hard on those kids who do have the skills because so much class time gets wasted. And,
Well,
teachers, we're trying to do everything we can to teach the skills, but without reinforcement outside the classroom, we're
mhm.
like the bad guys here, and, the truth is, if I wanted to have a really quiet, well-behaved class, it's super simple. Give them their devices and let them do whatever they would like on their devices. I could have a quiet hour, right? Like the same way that some parents get a quiet hour out of their kids, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not any good for learning. And as soon as I want them to be on my task, on like the learning task, it's a disaster on the devices, right? But if you let them do whatever they want, they can play whatever game they want, they can, go to whatever website they want, then it's golden, right? You've got
Mhm.
quiet. And I think we're learning a lot now about whether or not we should have given devices to one-to-one devices they have 100% of the time. And I don't want anyone to get the impression that I don't think we should teach kids how to use devices. I do. I think we should teach kids about digital literacy. I think we should teach kids about AI. I think we should teach kids about appropriate use of devices. But I don't think that 10 years old is the right age to hand a child the most addicting device ever created and expect that they can manage that.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
same way that we don't give a 10-year-old a car to drive and expect
Hmm.
that they can manage it, right? And
Yep.
we don't give them alcohol to drink and expect that they can manage it. These devices have been designed by tech companies to be the most addicting devices and apps known to man. In fact, they specifically design the apps that way. You could design the app ethically, or you could design the app to keep attention more. And they always go to keeping attention more, right?
Yeah.
And so this is not normal circumstances.
That's right. That's right. I think it, and I think that's one of the reasons these conversations are really important is that we're facing unprecedented things in the classroom. You're facing unprecedented things in the classroom. Other teachers are seeing things and they're like, this is not the thing that I experienced, 10 years ago as a teacher. So circling back to this data came from Socrate, where we are using the application to listen and collect this warning and praise data. How are you leveraging now that you have this data? Is it changing how you're interacting with the students? Is Socrate supporting you in different ways now that you have this data with the knowing how these warnings and praises work?
I think the thing that's really cool is the ability to go back and look at the data over time.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, so for example, I had a parent teacher conference. We did parent teacher conferences a week or two ago. And one of the parents asked me how her son was doing in class. And he's one that's had some behavior. Some emails have gone home in the past. He really struggled last semester. But as with a lot of middle schoolers, they kind of have six months where their hormones hit just right and they become really a different personality and then they kind of settle down again, right? And so like my memory of him was as kind of a troublemaker, but then I went back through the data for several weeks and I was like, actually he's doing really well this
Oh,
semester. Like he's barely had any warnings. He's been a model student and I'm really proud of him. But had I not had the data, my memory would have been of last semester because that's the thing that's the stickiest, right? And so it really actually then altered my new perception of this kid as being, pretty good, uh,
mm-hmm.
and having really turned it around. I think this is the really hard thing about the data we encounter as teachers. The stickiest data is the data um, that makes us mad.
Yep. It's what
It's
our
the
brains
same
are
reason
wired for.
why it's
Yeah.
the same reason why the whole internet is fueled by anger and hate, because all the tech companies know that anger and hate are the things we click on.
Yeah.
It's what we gravitate towards. It's what we remember. It's what makes us mad. It's what sticks, right?
Mhm.
And as teachers, like, it's a shame that that's the data that sticks at the end of the day, right? We're trying to give teachers back all the data. So it's not just that data that's
Mhm.
sticking, it's also all the kids who have fantastic behavior, who were praised for something. Like, send those emails home to parents, right? So that you get those positive interactions too. Um, there are so many fabulous things about teaching every day. There are so many delightful moments with students, and we just lose those in the wash of all of these classroom behaviors we're dealing with. And more, we want to give those fantastic moments back to teachers as well. We're working on some more things in progress here, but we want a lot more.
We want to teach happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I like that you just mentioned that I want to kind of just reemphasize is that you said like if I had relied on my memory, I would have remembered the student was poor behavior, but because I can see the new data, I can see oh there's actually been change, and so that's sort of like opportunity to see someone differently, to see change, an opportunity to see change because you have data is a beautiful thing because otherwise you're right, we get this like this is that person, I've put them in this box and now I don't have to think about that again. But now you have data that contradicts that box and you have to go, oh, actually, this is fluid. These students are actually changing, like you said. Hormones are not, right? Like they're evolving as little human beings. And so this is a really cool way using Socrate and the behavior data to actually see opportunities for growth and change in the students, which I think is really lovely.
Well, I don't have anything to add to that.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited as we continue to gather more data and learn more about how teachers and students are going to be better at studenting and teachers get more opportunity to enjoy the teaching that they love. We have one more scheduled teaching out loud on March 2nd. And for anyone who is watching this, we currently have some special offers going on with a research pilot. Please reach out to me, Kristen, at socrate.com if you are interested. We're going to be doing that until March 15th, so you have a little bit of time to reach out and find out more. Rian, any closing thoughts? It's a Friday. You've finished a teaching week.
No, I have to go teach still.
Oh, no, you have to go teach.
Right after this.
Buona fortuna.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us today and have a great weekend, Maria.